Good morning, everybody. We are back again for lesson 5 of thinking into results. And actually, this lesson is called thinking into results. So this is a really, really important lesson. If you haven't saw our other lessons, you want to make sure you watch all those in the back office. And I'm just going to recommend don't rush through them. It's recommended that you take at least like 1 to 2 weeks for each lesson. So if you're not at this lesson yet, go back, watch the other ones, and then hop on here when you're ready. But so this is lesson 5. And this one really is the trick to staying in charge no matter what. So this is going to be your mental toolbox. Okay. And it's kind of interesting because people don't really think about having to exercise their mind, right? They don't really understand all the tools they have in their mental faculties. We think about going to the gym and you work out, your arms, your legs, whatever you're doing, and that's going to produce a result, right? But we don't think about what we need to do for our mind, right? We don't think about how to, really put that to use. So today we're going to talk about what are your mental tools that you have to use and that you can use in any situation, and also to help you change the result that you're looking for, either in your life or in your business. So good morning, everybody. I see you guys all hopping on the chat now, and hopefully everybody in Florida is safe from all the hurricanes happening. And I know Texas has some tornadoes, and I don't know, it's crazy weather season right now, but stay safe, everybody. All right, but let's get right into it, because this is going to be so important. So if you're taking notes, definitely take notes. There's a few things you're going to want to write down. And so let me just get right into it. All right. So here's the deal. Most people are living from the outside in, right? They're living from looking at their results. They're looking at the results in their bank account, on their x-rays, on their diagnoses. They're living from whatever the result is that they have in their life. They're looking at their back office. People look at their back office and they go, oh my gosh, I only have this much volume and I only have this many days left of the month. And we're letting our results control us, right? Well, I can't do this because, this is happening. It's always a circumstance or a situation. That's focusing on your result. The more you focus on your result or what's happening on the outside, the more you're giving power to the outside. You become the plaything for what's happening around you, instead of being the one in the driver's seat, the one in control. That's, dictating that result. Okay, so I know the way Bob says it, and we talked a little bit about muscles. He says, if I put this arm in a sling with my fist clenched and I just left it there, and then this one, I started lifting weights, this one would grow and change and have a different result. And this one would just be stuck like that, right? Atrophy would set in. Well, our mind works the same way. Our mental faculties work the same way. So let's get into some of these tools. What are they and how can we develop them? So let's get right into it. So here they are: perception, will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. So I know that was a lot for you to remember all at once. I'm going to say it one more time, but we're going to go through these one at a time. So let's actually start with memory. Okay. So our memory that we have is actually perfect. Now, some people say I have a bad memory. There actually is no such thing as having a bad memory. There's only weak memories and there's strong memories. There's no such thing as anybody having a bad memory. So I don't know, like, I'm kind of a freak of nature in a way with my memory. Like, I always just told myself that I have a photographic memory, and because that's how I identify as myself, I have the ability to memorize things at first look at it. But everybody has the ability to do that. You have to just develop that. That's a mental faculty that you can develop. There's people that know how to memorize an entire book, right? There's a guy named Jerry Lucas in San Francisco who's teaching people how to memorize the entire Bible. That's kind of crazy. And the way you memorize things is through ridiculous association. So because I don't always want to get my wallet out every time I want to spend money, I memorize my credit cards. I memorize it. I memorize all the numbers. And, if that seems like hard to fathom, think about this. Have you ever memorized a song before? Most of you have, right? You've memorized at least one song or the other, especially childhood songs. You mostly remember those, right? And so if you can memorize a song, you can memorize anything else. So some of the ways that I use when I'm memorizing a credit card, for instance, is I'm putting a little tune to it and then I'm remembering it just like that. The other thing you can do is, like, I know through acronyms, people, if you ever took a math class before, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, like we all remember that, right? And that's just ridiculous association. Ridiculous association helps you memorize things. Now, it's going to be different for memorizing numbers than it is for names and words, right? There are different types of, functions there. I recommend getting a book on memory and learning literally how to put it to use. Now it takes exercise, right? It takes mental exercise to develop that. But once you can do that, I mean, it's like a whole new world opens up. One time in my life, before I got into network marketing, I was in the insurance industry, right? And I had to get my licenses. Now, at the time, I had probably, I don't know, $10 left in my bank account. And I had to pay for diapers and things for my kids. And I remember thinking like, well, I got to get a license in order to start selling stuff, so I have to like hurry up on this, I got to be quick about it. I only have 4 days before I'm out of money type thing. So I went online and memorized all the insurance exams and all the answers, memorized it. And so I took one test. I drove all the way up to San Francisco, took that test, turned around and drove all the way to San Diego, took that test. Within a 4-day period, I had passed both of my licenses, got both of my licenses, and I was ready to sell by the 5th day. Now that was like record time, but I was very highly motivated. And it's interesting when you're highly motivated to do something, what kind of mental faculties you can really unlock. So I actually had let my insurance licenses expire on 3 different occasions, and I went back and took the test again instead of just doing the education you can do. So I know that I can memorize anything, and you guys can memorize anything too. And why is that helpful? Well, it's helpful for a lot of reasons. For one, you're going to be able to recall names when you're meeting people. You're going to recall what their story is when you're talking to people on the phone. You're going to be able to, not only that, but when you're studying, you're going to retain all that information, which will make you a better teacher and trainer, right? So it's good to have that development. All right. So the second one is reason. Now, reason is literally the highest mental faculty that we have. Reason's what gives us the ability to think. That's a really important thing. Now, I don't want you to be confused that thinking and mental activity are the same thing. Anybody can have mental activity, but the majority of people do not think. And that's kind of crazy to think about, but it really is. It is our inductive reasoning faculty that gives us the ability to function, right? So this is where you can say, do I want that result? No. So I'm not going to think that way about it, right? I'm going to change what I'm thinking about. When I'm thinking about something differently, I'm going to get a different result. So this gives us the ability to observe what we're doing and then think of ideas on what we can do better. So if you aren't really looking at yourself and at your results and thinking, maybe I don't want this in my life, you have the ability to use your reasoning mental faculty to say, I'm going to try a different thing. I'm going to try a different result altogether, or try to get a different result altogether by changing my thoughts. Now, here's the cycle that we find ourselves in, right? So we take a look at our results, and then that causes thoughts, which is, oh my gosh, I just got diagnosed with this. And so now your thoughts are going down this rabbit hole, right? Or you're looking at your sales and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to pay for this. And then it starts a trail of thoughts, right? So oftentimes we're starting with the results and then we're changing our thoughts based on what we're observing, right? So results that lead to thoughts, and these thoughts then lead to feelings. So now you're internalizing those thoughts. What if, right? What if starts happening? What if I don't make my income I need this month? What if I don't survive this diagnosis? What if, right? So now you're internalizing those thoughts. You're creating feelings out of it. Now, when you create that feeling, that changes your state of vibration. And then that changes what actions you're taking automatically through that habit process, through your paradigms. And then the actions is what leads to the results again. Does that make sense? So if you can imagine like a circle, you would imagine results that lead to thinking and thoughts, which lead to feelings, which lead to actions, which lead to results again. So how do we change that? Well, we got to stop looking at our results we have, and we got to start looking at the results that we want. And we have to control the thoughts instead of allowing them to be based on what we're observing. Does that make sense? Because remember, what you're observing now, there's a time delay. What you're observing now is based on what you planted last season, right? So if we're thinking about it like that, You planted nightshade in your garden, and now a nightshade's blooming in your garden. Now you got weeds everywhere and deadly poison. Well, how did we get to that? We got there because of our thoughts, because of our feelings, and because of the actions we were taking. So if we want a new result, that's what we have to do. That's all done in your reasoning mental faculty. Does that make sense to you guys? All right. So we got memory, we got reason, and now we've got perception. Now, perception, I feel like, is one of the most powerful tools that we have to use. Perception is having the ability to look at the same thing a different way. So this is the example Bob uses, and I have my own examples, but he holds up his book and he says that when he's like talking to somebody in person, he says, now, is there something on the front of this book? And they say, yeah, there's something on it. I can see the title right here. Now, if I change it like a little bit, you might not be able to see it, right? So they're going to say, yes, there's something on this book. Well, from where Bob's looking at it, there's nothing on the book. So in his mind, there's nothing on the book, but they're looking at it and say, yes, there is something on the book. So who's right? Everybody's right? So if you're looking at it from this direction, you would be seeing something there. If you're looking at it from this direction, you'd be seeing nothing there. And so we're looking at the same thing, but at a different perspective, right? And so that is the ability to choose if you're looking at something half full or half empty, if you're looking at the positive pole of things, or if you're looking at things on the negative side. Now, if you've ever had a teenager in your life, I was just my kids as an example, but I'm like, hey, Evan, it's always Evan, because he's the teenager in the family, and he's always like, he always has the negative thing to say, and I'm always like, well, you could look at it like this. And he's like, but that's not real, but it's not real for him, but it is real for me. And so if you've got somebody in your family that's always negative, it's kind of like they have their whole set, what they think reality is. And then you're sitting there like, no, but that's not how it is. Now, if you're in network marketing, this is one of the biggest challenges I feel like people face, is because they're surrounded by a lot of people that all agree on one thing, right? And you're coming into network marketing, you're seeing it from this side, and they're only seeing it from this side. And so to create that awareness in somebody else's mind is quite a challenge sometimes. But if you can change your perception on how you look at things, you're going to open your mind to new possibilities, new ideas, new ways of doing things. I was talking at a business dinner last night, and I was talking about Josh, and he was sitting there with me, of course, but I was thinking, like, even when I met Josh, even when he didn't have a whole lot of money, he never said, I can't afford it. He never said that. He always said, we'll figure it out. Like, he had a different perspective around money than I had even at the time, right? And my results were indicative of what I was thinking and what I was feeling. So if you can change your perception, if you can change your point of view towards everything, when you see something that causes you to, think something that can't be done, you flip the script and think of a way that you can make it happen, right? And so people always talk, down on themselves with their own perception. It's like, well, only, a certain amount of people succeed. Well, change the script, flip the script. I can succeed if they can succeed, right? So our perception is, like I said, our point of view, and it gives you the ability to create new ideas for how something can be done versus how it can't be done. All right. So that's perception. Imagination is the next one. Now, imagination creates fantasies, and fantasy is the first stage in the creation process, really. I mean, you talk about like little kids when they're just, I love playing with my toddlers because their imagination is off the charts, and it's like they're seeing a whole different world than I'm even seeing, and in their imagination, they have no cap on it. We might be acting as pirates in one room, and then we go to the next room and now we're mermaids. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have a whole different world of imagination. Now, what happens when those kids get into school? It's like, stop daydreaming, stop looking out the window. It's like, focus, think about what's happening here and now. But your imagination is literally what is the first stage of creation. You'll never be able to create anything of consequence without using your imagination. And so now here we are as adults, and I'm telling you, start to imagine again, because you want to build that fantasy. You want to build that C type goal. If you never let yourself go farther in your mental mind, then you're not going to do it in your physical reality either. You're going to find a way not to do it, right? And so in this thinking into results program, this literally was an idea that originated from somebody's imagination, Bob and Sandy Gallagher's imagination. Everything that we do in My Daily Choice is a result of our imagination and our collaborative imagination of our affiliates and our corporate staff. So if you're always looking for, the way something can't be done, and you refuse to use your imagination when it comes to solving problems, you're going to be really heading into a lot of resistance versus going with the flow, because it is your innate ability to use your imagination to create something of consequence, right? Everything is created twice. Now, this is so important. And I was actually on the way here to the office today, I was actually studying the double slit experiment. Now, I studied this a while ago, and it's very, very interesting to think about. But it basically indicates that there's more going on in our outside world, or actually in the ether of our world, than there is in our physical world. And so everything's created twice, once in the spiritual and once in the or in the energetic world, if you don't like that word, and then it comes into the material world, right? So everything's created twice. First of all, before this was a book, it was an idea, right? Before this was a cell phone, this was somebody's idea. The light that I have, the computer that's recording me right now, was somebody's idea. Somebody used their imagination to bring that about. First, it started up here. They put in plans of action, and they brought it into the physical. HempWorks was an idea. My Daily Choice was just an idea. And before we had anything in the physical, we were out selling vision, right? Because that's all we had. We were selling the idea, and our concept eventually came into the physical world, right? And so we never want to stop the use of our imagination, because it can solve some of the best problems that you have. Now, I know some people are freaked out when they have problems in their life, but really you should get excited when you have a problem in your life. That's perception. You should get excited when you have a problem in your life, because that means if you can solve it, you get to level up, right? So successful people aren't immune to having problems in their life. I know that when I was broke-minded and bent out of shape about life, I looked at successful people and I was like, they have no problems. Like, oh, must be nice. Like that was my train of thinking. But as I started developing myself and my mental faculties, I realized that everybody has problems, and problems are really just opportunities. They're opportunities to solve something and to level up and to get to the next level. If you look at life like it's a video game, you can't get to the next level unless you fight the boss, right? So if you know that boss is coming because you just got to the next level, just get prepared for it, plan for it, be excited about it, because you know that once you get to the other side of that, a whole new world is opening up for you. All right, so let's talk about will. Will gives you the ability to hold one picture on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. The will gives you the ability to focus and to concentrate. The more you practice developing your will, the stronger it will become. Now, apparently Napoleon Hill had a very strong will, like evolved willpower. One way that you can evolve this will is, and Bob suggests, is sitting in your chair, put a dot on the wall across from your chair, or light a candle and stare at that candle and focus and really try and become one with that flame, like mentally, right? And we want to tune out all other distractions. So, we've got like a 6-lane highway hooked up to our sensory factors, which is all your 5 senses. Your 6th is your intuition. And if you have all this information flooding into your consciousness all at the same time, it becomes very difficult to focus, especially in today's world when there's literally distractions everywhere. How many of you are distracted when you open your phone? Have you ever said, oh, I need to check my email because I got to sign something. And then before you know it, you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Wayfair, Amazon, you're all over the place. There's so many distractions. Well, the will is developing the ability to concentrate and focus on one thing, That's it. You're holding in your mind that you're going to be earning, $5,000 a month income, and you're going to do it because you're going to show up every day and you're going to mentally walk into that next version of yourself. You're going to change the energy, the vibration within you, because you're going to become that. And your focus is that. You wake up every morning, you're working towards that. Your will gives you the ability to focus all the energy that's coming in, right? We talked about that. There's this energy that flows to and through you. You want to be able to marshal that energy, right? So think about a magnifying glass. Have you ever done this as a kid or as an adult? Hopefully not. But have you ever done this where you take a magnifying glass and you're holding it right in the sun and you're causing something to burn? What's happening there? Well, you're focusing on this energy. This energy is being so focused that's literally causing something to ignite, piece of grass or whatever is there, right? Now, that literally happened to our corporate office last week. Our AC units were harnessing a lot of energy, and because of the sun hitting the metal at a certain angle or whatever was happening, it started causing smoke to infiltrate our whole building. The energy was focused in one area. So imagine what happens to yourself if you have your goal at the screen of your mind. And I'm talking about a picture of your goal, because we think in pictures, right? So you have the image of the first version of yourself that you're becoming. You have the vision of the back office you want to see, even though it doesn't look like that now. You have the vision of what your bank account is going to look like, right? You hold the vision on the screen of your mind, and then you think of ways through your perception and through your imagination on how you're going to do that. All right. So the will marshals that energy and gives you the ability to focus it so that you can actually bring it into existence. The problem with most people is they're so distracted, they don't put enough time or energy. They don't put the energy into their business. If you're coming from the job world, you may think, I put all this time in my business, nothing's happening. No. How much energy are you putting? How much focus, energy are you putting in your business? That's what your will is going to do. All right. So let's talk about your intuitive factor, intuition. Now, I've heard that Bob says that when you're praying, you're talking to God, but when you have when you're using intuitive factor, God is talking to you. So you ever have like a nudge that has saved you before? You're like, you know what? Something told me not to go down to, that block of the street that time of day. And then you check the news like 2 weeks later and you're like, there was a shooting. Have you ever like just missed something completely? Okay. Our building was about to be on fire, but we had an employee that had an intuitive factor that was like, something seems wrong here, and he intercepted it before it actually happened. Have you ever just had like a gut feeling about something? Maybe it's when you met your spouse that you're married to now, right? And so we can actually develop this. Like, this is something that you can develop. Have you ever walked into a room and you can sense the energy in it and you're like, this person has weird vibes. This person has bad vibes. And alternatively, when somebody has good vibes, you're like, this feels like alignment. Like, this is how I build my team. Literally, I feel like I don't even have to say anything. I'm like, do I feel like I can work with you? I'm very much trusting my intuitive factor, right? Okay, so it's with your intuition that allows you to pick up the vibrations and translate those vibrations in your mind. You have to develop that, because now I know that when Bob was alive and he was at his seminars, he would walk around the room and he would just find somebody in the audience and he would just look at them for a minute and he would just stare at them for a second. He would go, you're very right-brained, you're creative, but you also have a lot of resistance, because, he's like reading them almost like a book. And that was something Bob was teaching me how to do before he passed. He's like, I'm going to teach you how to read people like books. And now I feel like I understand that. That's your intuitive factor. Intuition is often referred to as the sixth sense. However, this is a misnomer because it's not really a sense. It is just one of your higher faculties that can be developed. And it can be developed to an extraordinary degree. People that are, like magicians and stuff like that, they're using a lot of that as well. Like people that are doing this in show business, some is illusion, but some is not, some is legit. So you want to develop your intuitive factor, because honestly, this is going to help you avoid a lot of mistakes, right? Because if you're like trying to recruit negative people, for instance, you're trying to recruit the yellow or whatever, the rotten apples, and you're like talking to this person and you're like, what are your goals? And it's like, I don't really have any, and they just start talking about their excuses. Now, in some situations, this is an opportunity to help them redirect that. But in most cases, it's not worth your time. Like, you're looking for people that are saying the right things, ready to show up, ready to work. And your intuition is going to help you detect that so that you can avoid wasting a lot of time in your business. All right. That is the last one. So we just covered memory, reason, perception, imagination, will, and intuition. All right. So those are your mental faculties. These are the ones you want to focus on. And the more you develop them, the stronger they become, just like going to the gym, but for your mind, right? The more you're going to be able to really change your results that you're getting in your life. So this was a very quick lesson, but thank you guys for hopping on, and I will see you guys again next week. Bye, guys.